Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F122 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today, we are coming off of 3 back-to-back podiums as we finish P3, in the Canadian Grand Prix right behind Max Verstappen, as our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo got his first win of the season. That would be 3 wins on the season for McLaren. Verstappen there in second continues to advance his championship lead over Leclerc. We head into the British Grand Prix weekend, a track that I thoroughly enjoy. Unfortunately, a bit of a wet start to the weekend as we landed. You can see the views of the circuit as we came in. Fortunately, by the time I found myself on track though for free practice 1, it had dried up. You see myself making some laps here now, just getting accustomed to the car and the setup and finding that comfort zone as we don't have a lot of laps, of course, to work with in free practice. But overall, felt pretty good about what we had now as we were headed towards qualifying. You can see we were P2 and P3, then it went to P3 and P4 on the board with Ricciardo and myself, and down to 5th and 6th. Had a little bit of underbody damage. This is in the qualifying pace program. The race strategy program was pretty easy. Qualifying was different scenario. I couldn't actually beat the qualifying pace, so 0.3 of a second off there. Top of the board though in free practice 1, and we would stay there. Myself and Ricciardo go P1, P2, so McLaren front row lockout, I guess you can say, in practice. So that doesn't matter though. We don't care about practice times. What we care about is that qualifying pace, and that's what we were headed into now. Now the threat of weather is not an issue this weekend here in Britain, thank goodness, because, you know, we've had some threats of weather throughout this season so far, but it hasn't been the most common thing, but we've been pretty lucky. I mean, it's overall been a pretty fortunate season for us. The weather hasn't been too much of an issue as well. We also haven't had a mechanical failure, so we are yet to see one of those, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened at some point soon. I don't know if I've ever gone this long into a season without actually having a mechanical failure. You see myself advancing now in Q1. We were P13, so a little bit down the order compared to my teammate of Ricciardo, as Latifi, Stroll, Schwartzman, Tsunoda, and Albon all missed the cut there. Zhou Guanyu barely makes it through. So a little bit down on pace to kick off this Grand Prix weekend here in the first qualifying session. Here in Q2 though, things would improve quite a bit now, as you can see myself going through comps there really quick, and then through the final couple of corners, and it was actually top of the board. So I was pretty happy with that, and I would go back on track late for a second attempt just in case we ended up out, because we were down to 6 behind Ricciardo, so not great. And we had found a little bit more time, found about 0.2, nearly 0.3 of a second, but then I didn't really find much more time throughout the rest of the lap, but it was still P5, P6, so we were going to be okay. But I do finish the lap here about 3.5 of a second quicker, and that puts us P4, Ricciardo 6. Look at this, Hamilton again. Hamilton's out. Oh my goodness. Lewis Hamilton's absolutely horrendous season continues, as in his home Grand Prix, he will miss Q3. I mean, that is surprising, and it's been a rough season for Hamilton, and it's showing no signs of improvement here today. You have to wonder at this point if he's considering retirement or not now, as I'm sure the media, it's not going to be long until they start to speculate, you know, what's going on there with Lewis, but you can see myself here in Q3. This is my only attempt in Q3, by the way, so this had to be a lap that counted. I had Charles Leclerc close behind me. Look at this, he's right up on my rear gearbox here as we head down into this final chicane here, right behind Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Now coming to the line, Magnussen's gonna cross. He's P8 currently, stays P8, we go P7. I decide to actually try and attempt to make a second lap here, as you can see myself coming through this first sector, but watch this right here. We find more time, but then I messed up the braking zone right there and going to the red, so that was it. So we start P8 for the British Grand Prix, which I think we could have done better, but just didn't have it there in Q3. We've struggled with a little bit on pace this weekend. Ricciardo 5th, Leclerc, Verstappen, front row. Let's head to the grid.
Welcome along then to Great Britain and the Great Silverstone circuit for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6-mile-long Silverstone circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and of Copse flat out. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position. And Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, and Perez. Magnussen, Golden Boy, Mick Schumacher, and Esteban Ocon. Gasly, Norris, Fernando Alonso, and Hamilton. Joe, Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Robert Schwartzman. Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Alright, then ready to go lights out here. It's the usual medium to hard compound tire strategy here in Britain. Checking the race director to see who else is doing what. Lando Norris is the only one that's doing something different. He is on the soft. So pretty straightforward. Medium to hards. Let's get ready to go racing.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. We're almost ready to start the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
Alright team, we struggled a little bit on pace this weekend, but I think we proved to ourselves recently, Baku and Canada, just keep in it, anything can happen, we'll find ourselves in the mix.
Yep, keep the car clean and we can find ourselves in the mix today again.
You hear myself and Mark there on the radio now. We are ready to go racing. So P8 qualifying effort here in Silverstone. A little bit of work to be done if we're going to find ourselves in the mix for a third or fourth consecutive podium it would be. So we've had a heck of a stretch recently with the wins in Monaco, the win in Baku, and the podium in our home circuit in Canada in the last episode. But now here we are in Britain. 5 red lights, lights out, we are underway. It's Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc up there on the front row, and you see side by side down into turn 1, it's gonna be Verstappen who comes out ahead of Leclerc. In the background there's George Russell and Sainz side by side. Our teammate Ricciardo, a big lunge up there in the background on Sergio Perez. He's now alongside the Spaniard of Carlos Sainz as they're going to go through the left-hander now as well. You can see the Alpine, the 2 Haas cars in the background. That's Magnussen and Mick Schumacher battling it out. I was able to settle in behind them, so it wasn't the perfect start for myself. Once again, the kind of usual. At this point up ahead, you can see a bit of a 3-wide scrap there in the distance. That was between Perez, Ricciardo, as well as Carlos Sainz. There you get a good view of it now. Looks like Perez is going to get the short end of the stick there. He loses a spot to the Alpine, so Perez now has to settle in behind, and I myself was actually able to make an overtake on one of the Haas cars here, so moving myself forward now as well. Some battles in the back through Cobbs there, very close quarters between the Alpine and the AlphaTauri there. That's Pierre Gasly going at it with Fernando Alonso, but it looks like they get it sorted out, and overall a relatively clean start here to the British Grand Prix. Now Max Verstappen finds himself out in front of the reigning and defending champion of Charles Leclerc. You can see up there side by side, that's Esteban Ocon with contact right there briefly on Sainz. Looks like they'll get it sorted out though, as we're going to make a move up the inside of Magnussen, just barely showing my nose. I was kind of hesitant on this move, but now we have an opportunity to go around the outside here and hopefully pull off this overtake. Yes, we will. So up into now P8 we go. So back to where we qualified. It took us only 1 lap to lose a couple spots and then gain them back here. So I was pretty happy with that now as we try to close in on the back of Sergio Perez, who was struggling to get past the Alpine of Ocon here. And you can see at the end of lap 3, I am closing right in on this group of cars in front of us that are scrapping it out. That's Ricciardo, that's Sainz, Ocon, and Perez as well. The 4-car battle turns to 5, maybe 6 and 7, coming up with Magnussen and Schumacher wanting to get into the mix. Perez gets the pass complete on Esteban Ocon here now. but DRS is now enabled at this point, so it's going to get really interesting here down this next straightaway now, and you can see myself an opportunity to go slip up the inside right there of the Alpine of Ocon, and now we will pass the Frenchman as we come through the left-hander. So there we go, up into the now 7th position, a net gain of 1 position since the start of this race, so pretty happy with that. And now we can set our sights on Perez again and see if we can make something happen before he gets a chance to pass our teammate of Ricciardo. And that opportunity was right here. Lap 5, DRS wide open. He's got the DRS, but we got really good straight line speed here today up the inside of Perez. As that's happening, we have a malfunction with the DRS. The rear wing is actually stuck open. We completed the pass on Perez, but look at this. The rear wing is stuck open. Mark told me immediately that I need to come into the pit lane here to fix that rear wing. So I was going to tough it out for as long as I could, because obviously if we come in now, we'll have to go in the hards and we'd have to do 21 laps on a set of hard tires, which wouldn't be impossible, but I certainly would prefer not to do that here. Now, as you can see myself closing in on the back of Ricciardo now at the end of lap 5 through the long sweeping right-hander. There it goes. We lose the rear end of the car, which is so easy to do when the rear wing is stuck open. And now it's okay, we got to come into the pits now. Not what I want to do and not a mistake I want to make, but I mean it's not even much of a mistake. It was the rear wing malfunction that caused that spin. I actually had a bit of an issue there. I just completely got caught sleeping now, but you can see us get the hard compound tire on. So you're going to see a visual bug. The rear wing's still going to be stuck open until we actually get a chance to get into the real DRS of somebody, but I can confirm that the car was driving better. It's the rear wing is no longer stuck open, even though it might look like it. But now we have to settle in and do what we can here. On lap 7, you can actually see Magnussen exiting the pit lane there, so he's not far in front of me, so that's the spot to be gained. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell currently that top 3. Russell having a great day, while his teammate of Hamilton, P11 currently here. We are now making a move on the inside of Magnussen in the DRS. Easy overtake right there, not even a contest. He doesn't fight it. We move through into only P19. So now it's all about setting as quick of a pace as I possibly can. That way we can gain hopefully a few extra spots when everybody comes into the pits a little bit later on. Now Lando Norris as well, he had actually made a pit stop early and it was only 1.8 seconds ahead of me, but we would close in very quickly. Lap 10 DRS here, and we are within a half a second of Norris. We could make a move right here. Look at the speed we have. I don't know why our car is just absolutely flying in a straight line compared to the AI here today, and we move up now into P17 or P18, sorry. So here we are at the end of the lap, setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Don't think that is going to stick, but hey, never say never. You don't know what's going to happen here. Lap 13 though, here comes Max Verstappen into the pit lane here. So he's been in control of this Grand Prix since the start, you know, right off the lights, and I wouldn't expect things to change here unless something goes wrong. But you can see now Pierre Gasly, Lewis Hamilton, they had just come up from pitting as well, and they're on cold tires, so I knew I had to put good work into this lap here to try and get past him as quick as possible. Gasly stays ahead, but I'm not done fighting him quite yet here. Now we're going to go around the outside, potentially into Cops. Here we go, side by side, drag racing towards Cops, and we have the run down into the corner. We go around the outside, we take the position. That's up at a P15. Lewis Hamilton, the next objective here. You see Leclerc now into the pits as well, and he was second coming in, but now you see Russell is able to actually beat him in the pit lane, so he is going to move himself into second, Leclerc down to third, as now here's an easy opportunity to pass the 7-time world champion of Lewis Hamilton right there. Not even a contest, now up to P14. And now I was realizing that the fact that we got ahead of Hamilton, who was just outside the points earlier, we still got a good shot at a good finish here. We have had such a good run that you can see. Yeah, we're up to P10 and coming out just behind Esteban Ocon. We can still get a heck of a finish because we're not far behind a lot of cars. Daniel Ricciardo's not far down the road. We've just been setting a really good pace here. Now, around the outside of Ocon, struggling on those cold tires he is, and that puts us into P9. And here's Fernando Alonso and just in front of us on lap 15 and setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again here. Now DRS wide open, an opportunity maybe to get past the Spaniard here down towards the left-hander. He's going to go left, I go right though. Around the outside, he goes a little wide there into the corner. I was able to act on that really quickly and take P8. And next up, Mick Schumacher, former teammate of course, and we've had a couple of scraps with him as of late here. Late race update though, it's Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc, the top 3. Outside of the podium, you got Carlos Sainz there as well, having a decent run here today. And then you got Perez, Ricciardo, Schumacher, myself. I think I could potentially pass Mick Schumacher, and maybe also have a chance to go and run down Ricciardo as well and be able to overtake them. Then you got Fernando Alonso and Ocon, the two Alpines, 9th and 10th, and they've had a really interesting season. They started out so strong, and things quite haven't gone their way now. Hamilton there in P11, who's had such a terrible season, and hoping that something turns around for him quickly. Obviously, he's already out of the fight for the championship. He's not going to make a comeback at this point. It's really heartbreaking to watch a 7-time champion struggle to the extent that he has struggled here, now breezing past the Haas of Schumacher here. And actually, we were moving so quick on this run on hards. I don't know where the pace came from, but it was like a switch flipped. I got comfortable on these hard compound tires in the last, 10 to 15 laps of this Grand Prix, and I would just start absolutely hauling the mail right up towards my teammate of Ricciardo within the next 2 laps. 2.3 seconds, yellow flag in the background, and it's Alex Albon in the Williams Porsche. Again, issues for the Williams Porsche. What a terrible collaboration project this is currently. They are the worst team on the grid, and it keeps on getting worse. Fast lap of the Grand Prix, and it would continue. I mean, we were flying at this point now. It was even getting attention from CROFT and BRUNDLE in the booth. Let's take a listen.
Where's the pace come from for Owen, Martin?
I wish I knew. Whatever he's found today is extraordinary, isn't it? He's on way older tyres and is setting the fastest times of anyone right now.
You hear CROFT, BRUNDLE talking about myself up there in the booth together as we are sizing up Ricciardo for an overtaking opportunity right here. We've seen the pace of this car in a straight line. I think it was all set up at this point, because this thing, look at this, absolutely flying against even our teammate's car as we head down into the right-hander. So there's another overtake. Up at a P6 we go, and we just continue flying. I don't know, like I said, where this pace had come from, but you can see lap 22, purple, sector 1, sector 2, green 3. That's another fastest lap of 1:28.699. But I mean, I wasn't necessarily over yet. 4.4 seconds behind Perez, but like 3.6 seconds a lap later again. Purple sector 1 and 2, green 3, 1:28.5, fastest lap of the Grand Prix once again. A red sector 1 that time, though. We were coming up on the final 2 laps of the Grand Prix. We were now 4 seconds already ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, the drive of a lifetime. Fastest lap again with 2 laps to go. I've never put a drive quite like this together. We had a spin earlier and set us way behind, and somehow we have rebounded to P6. If only we had a safety car, what could have been? But it doesn't look like we quite have enough time to run down Perez. You can see the tire light coming up on the right side of the screen, so that was a bit of a concern there. But overall, we start the final lap not going faster that time, about a 1/10 of a second slower, and just trying to run down Perez. But right in these final, 2 laps was when I started to notice the tires starting to finally kind of get to the end of their life cycle and call it a day for me, and I was struggling to close in now on Perez. But fortunately, I had managed to get within the DRS. The fact that we closed this much ground, though, on this run of hard tires was absolutely awesome. As you can see, briefly, the tires up to like in the mid-60s%, so it was okay, though. Max Verstappen, though, I mean, has dominated this Grand Prix from start to finish, and he is going to round the final couple of corners, and Verstappen will win in Britain, and that will extend his championship lead over his second place right there behind him, Charles Leclerc, his rival for the championship, and Russell as well. P3 podium for Mercedes. Perez there in 5th. Myself spinning, actually, coming to the line, pushing a little bit too hard. Thankfully, it was just a quick 360 and, get it back going, get it collected, and cross the line there, so we don't lose anything out of it there. But trying a little bit too hard there. P6, though, and driver of the day. Let's head to the podium.
Then a fantastic British Grand Prix, and what a performance it was from our race winners today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
A heck of a drive from Max Verstappen here this weekend in Britain. I mean, he was absolutely on it. So, from start to finish, obviously, as you can see him celebrating up there with Charles Leclerc, as well as George Russell for the Ferrari and Mercedes teams as well, joining Red Bull on the podium. And it's been an interesting season for Verstappen. Started off, and it's gone very similar to last season so far, which if I'm Max Verstappen, I'm a little bit concerned. He started out so good. He's kind of had a few hiccups here and there, but he's still able to get the odd win here and there, and then we saw that happen last season, and then obviously after the summer break and, you know, going into Belgium and that point on, everything kind of went downhill for him. So I'm really very curious to see if that's going to happen again or not. Hamilton still no points here. I mean, the struggle is crazy for the 7-time world champion Albon there, the only DNF out of this race. And here is the standings. Verstappen 52 points ahead of Leclerc. At this point last season, it was around a similar mark, and we thought it was over, but no, it was not. So, and Russell not far back. Hamilton's not even in the top 10 in the standings right now. I mean, that's how you know it's been an abysmal season. But myself and Ricardo, P6, P7, still 30 points between us, as you see the constructors as well. We're going to take off here from Britain and get ready for the next Grand Prix. Which I look forward to very much. Very close to the summer break now, but I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody.